All right. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rocky series Going the Distance podcast. I'm very excited today because we have a lovely woman named Kirsty Strain. Did I get that
You got
right?
that perfect, yeah.
I could tell from your accent that you're not from Canada or from the States. Why don't you tell us where you're from?
No, I'm from Glasgow in Scotland, all the way from Bonnie, Scotland.
Um, so I saw on your resume that you can do a variety of accents. Is that correct?
Some, yeah, some.
I said it said New York and It said New York and California.
Yeah, like California. So nice and relaxed, nice and easy. I like California. It's a nice accent to do. I like it. Hopefully, people from California find it convincing. I don't know if they will or not, but that's my
That's
best.
good. I
That's
like it.
yeah, that's my best attempt at it anyway.
And then try New York for us.
New York is sort of more towards the front of the mouth, so when they talk, it's a little bit tougher. It sounds a little bit more serious. I don't know that New Yorkers are particularly much more serious. I think they probably are because their weather is not as good as California. But yeah, I like New York. I'm going there in a couple of weeks, so I'll try to blend in.
Oh, wow. Very good. Bravo. Bravo. That was really good. So what are you doing in New York? What are you going to be doing there?
It's just a holiday, so it's just 5 days. I used to live there, so I haven't been back since I left, which was almost 10 years ago. So it'll be interesting to go back just for a holiday for 5 days after having lived there for 3 years, but not been back for almost 10. So, yeah.
Well, good for you. I've never been to New York. I've been to California. I'm a West Coaster. I don't know if you know Canada very well.
I've never been. I have friends from there. One of my best friends is from Montreal, but she lives in Toronto now. But I've never been yet.
Okay.
Been.
Okay. I'm on the west part of Canada, so like above Seattle, Washington, above California, if you're to go above three states from California.
Okay.
It's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country. It's not as much snow as people would think. In fact, the states of the East Coast right now is getting hit with a lot of snow. So good luck with the snow in New York.
Yeah, their winters are freezing, yeah. But I'm from Scotland, so I'm used to that. I'm used to that weather most of the year, to be fair.
Oh, good. Well, the reason why we're talking to you, when I go on the internet and do the Twitter stuff and YouTube searches, I always try to find people who have a love of Rocky. As you can
Yeah.
see, I love Rocky, and Rocky is this podcast. And so people that listen to the podcast want to hear about Rocky, want to hear other people who love Rocky very much. But what I try to do as well is like people get bored of just hearing from me all the time. So it's good to hear other people's perspectives and what Rocky has done for them in their life. And I saw on your Twitter bio when you said that you're a Rocky devotee.
Yes.
So I know I think I am, but how did you decide that how did you become a self-described Rocky devotee?
Well, I first came upon Rocky when I was really young, probably about 11 or 12 when I first saw Rocky. And then I devoured, all the films and then kept going with it. And it just, in a lot of ways, became a huge part of my life and even a part of my conversation. Particularly when I started to face challenges and things like that, referencing Rocky became a huge thing, and not just with me, within my household, within my family. So we quote Rocky to each other a lot. We use moments from Rocky as a way of dealing with certain situations sometimes. I always call it my go-to guide for going the distance. That's where I get my inspiration from, my motivation from, and it just became part of my the way I perceive things and deal with things, and almost like a little bit of a philosophy if I take it that far.
That's awesome. That's absolutely. Well, I think we can all relate. I think anyone that's a Rocky fan subscribes to the whole. It's almost like a religion, wouldn't you say? Like the way it makes you feel, the way it makes you want to do good and do well with the people around you. Now, you said you started watching about 11 or 12. Was it your parents that showed you the movies? Did you come across on your own older siblings?
No, I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house, and my granddad was a big movie fan, and he had great taste in films. So we'd watch all manner of things, and yeah, so it was with him. And he was a great boxing fan as well. So I grew up around boxing and all that kind of thing. So it came from him, really, from my granddad. Yeah.
And what was the first? What was the first one that you remember that you thought like? What was the first one you remember seeing? Which number?
Oh, first one.
Oh, okay. So you
Yeah,
went in order.
I went in order. Yeah, I did it right. I went in order.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Well, I'm a little bit older. I'm a little bit older than you. I won't tell the listeners your age because I know some people are saying I'm I'm 41. So I saw the first Rocky memory that I have was the third Rocky. That's the one I seem to remember as a kid because when it came out in '83, that's when WrestleMania was huge, and of course Hulk Hogan's in the third one. So I remember the third one as a first memory, though I may have seen the other ones before, but because they're a little bit harder to gauge as a kid or to understand when you're a kid, the first two, because they're so dramatic and
Hmm.
dialogue heavy. The third and fourth one are more like action boxing movies where you don't have to understand the characters as well to just enjoy the movie. So, yeah, well, do you want to talk? I wouldn't mind talking to you about your feelings of some of the movies. So, Rocky One, of
Sure.
course, is a classic. It's the flawless movie. Um,
Yeah,
how do you rank the following movies? I guess is what because I think everyone agrees Rocky One's the best one.
So how do I order them? Okay, I order them 1, 4, 2, 3, Balboa 5.
Okay, and I guess Rocky Five is 6.
Yeah, I put that. It's unfortunate for 5, but I think it happens with most people that if they're gonna put them in order of preference, 5 does unfortunately come at the bottom. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have beauty in it and that it doesn't have really wonderful moments in it. But it, as a whole movie, I think it is unfortunate that it comes last, but it doesn't mean that it should be discounted in any way at all. I don't think.
No, I agree with you totally. Rocky Five is a real it's a real mess in some ways because it has some of the most tender moments.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite scenes is the Mickey flashback scene. It gets me every time. I can't help it. I get emotional with it every single time. But and that says a lot about Burgess Meredith as well. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful scene, and I especially love because it's all the little extra bits. It's not just all that meaning that he puts into that whole nature's smarter than people think. It's not just that whole speech. It's at the very end when Rocky says to him about the cufflink, and he says, "What happened to his other one?" He said, "I don't know. We give it to some bum," and it's just beautiful. It just sums that relationship up. Just that little bit at the very end. It's just beautiful. And then the scene that he has in the street with Adrian when she's trying to reach him, and I find that that's something that happens in the movies. It happens again in 3 when they're on the beach. She's trying to reach him. There's always a scene, where she's trying to reach him, and they have this conversation about things. And in 5, when she's like, saying to him about you want to pass something on, you pass it on to your son, and she's talking about his relationship with his son, and she's trying to reach him, and that's another great moment within Rocky 5. I think they're my 2
Those
favorite
are
moments.
really good examples. Yeah, that Adrian scene, I forget about that one. Like when I see it, I always think that's a great acting by Talia Shire, of course, and just that whole, yeah, like do what Mickey did for you, pass it on to your son.
Yeah.
This Tommy Gunn character is just, he's taking everything away from you, and you can never give him your heart. You can give him your fighting skills, but you can never give him the Rocky heart. I love that part.
And I think it's also because so much of that relationship is about him, I think, trying to recapture the relationship that he had with Mickey in some way, because obviously Mickey's no longer with them, and it's trying to recapture that at a time when he feels like he's lost everything. you know, because she's saying to him as well, like, I know what we are. You think I don't know what we are? Like, he's struggling with everything so much. He feels like he's lost so much. And this with Tommy is like an opportunity in a way to try to re-encapsulate something, a part of something, anything, because he feels like he's so lost at that particular moment. But he's just misdirecting it. And I think that's what Adrian's trying to tell him in that scene.
That's awesome. Where do you rank Creed? I think you forgot to put that. Do you consider that part of the Rocky canon?
No, I don't. I think it's a standalone film. I think it's a glorious standalone film, but Rocky's not the main protagonist of that film. It's called Creed for a reason. And Michael B. Jordan is fantastic. I've really liked him ever since Friday Night Lights, and I think he's terrific. And Sylvester Stallone in Creed that performance is just incredible. But it's not Rocky's story, really. We find out a little bit more about what happens to Rocky and where he is, but he's not the main protagonist of that story. Stallone didn't write the script, so to me, it's a standalone film and should stand alone. And it gives it a little bit more credit, and it punctuates it a little bit more if it's allowed to stand on its own 2 feet.
If you had to rank it, where would you put it?
Ooh, that's tricky. I'm not sure, because I'm still debating the ranking I gave you before, because part of me feels like Balboa should be further up in the rankings. So I'm already see, the problem with me is I struggle to have favorites of anything. So after I've decided on Rocky 1 and Rocky 4, everything else sort of all comes together, and then I pick and choose and go from one to the other. I'd put it in alongside Balboa anyway. I'd rank it in there.
Yeah, that's good.
On par with that.
That's good. That's a safe, good answer. I like it. I like very political.
It gets tough.
That's awesome.
Though. It gets tough to choose between them, to be fair.
Well, every one of them, no matter where they're ranked, there's something about each one of them that's just if you don't cry in any one of them, you're not human. I think there's a scene in every single one of them where you're just like, okay, and it doesn't matter how many times you've seen it. In fact, sometimes I think the more you see it, the more you get choked up. I'm not sure. That's the way I am. And I agree with you with Rocky V. The scene with Mickey in the ring, that is probably one of the most emotional scenes of the whole series. I think for me, the one that gets me choked up the most is in Rocky 1, when he gets knocked down in round 14, and he's kind of crawling to the corner, and Mickey's yelling, "Stay down, stay down,"
Yeah.
and that musical swell is building up, and you see Rocky knowing like he has to get up. He has to get up to go that distance for the 15th round. And you just know what's going through his head as a character, that he's getting the snot kicked out of him.
But what makes that is the scene way before, when that scene about going the distance, because we've seen that. So we know how he feels, and we know how important it is for him to go the distance. And what excites me so much about that scene is because it almost didn't even make it into the film because they were running out of time. And Sylvester Stallone said, no, it matters. To me, it's that scene is the crux of the whole film, because it's so telling. So because we have that scene, when you get to that moment that you're talking about, it's all there, and it makes so much sense, and we're willing him on because we know what that means to him, and we know why he's doing it, which is beautiful.
Yes, yeah, exactly. That's what multiple viewing of these movies do, because then when you hear that he's talking on the bed with Adrian, and that's when he says to her, like, I can't do this. I can't beat this guy. He sees where he's about to fight. He's alone in the ring, and he comes home. And he's like, this is too much. I don't know what I've got myself into. I can't beat this guy. And all I wanted to do was to tell everyone that I could go the distance, that I'm just another bum from the neighborhood, that I'm, and then that, I love that moment too, when Adrian doesn't say to him, like, can't believe you're thinking about this now. The fight's tomorrow. Some spouses may do this, or boyfriend and girlfriends might do this. Like, what do you do? We work so hard. Why? What I love her response is, what are we going to do? That was her response.
Yeah, and it's the we. That's what I loved about it, because she said, what are we going to do? She's in it with him. She's invested with him. And that stuck in my mind recently when I watched it again recently, that she says, what are we going to do?
That's awesome. And what I love about this is Stallone, he wrote all this stuff. And, when he wrote this script too, like, he was so young. I mean, 30, that's young. I think it's young. And to have that kind of life experience already coming through these characters. And that happens in all the films, except for Creed, they didn't write. But he wrote, as you know, 1 through 6. And I'm just amazed at his ability to kind of create these characters and make them feel like we all know them as well as we do. And the first film has that ability right away. I feel like we already know these characters in the first film.
I think
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, but I think it's also because he makes them really identifiable to you. I think there's aspects of each of those characters that we can find within ourselves and that we can connect with. And the relationships, because to me, especially the first one, it's a love story. It's a beautiful love story, and it's not just a love story between Rocky and Adrian. It's a love story between a man and himself. It's his relationship with himself and how he feels about himself, and the change that he goes through from the beginning of the film to the end of the film, and how multiple relationships are changed. His relationship with Mickey has changed. His relationship with Polly has changed. He develops this relationship with Adrian. So for me, it's a real relationship piece. And it's a character-driven piece, and I think that's what he does so well with the writing of it.
Now, I meant to ask you about your family growing up. So we'll go back to your life a little bit here. So You grew up in Scotland. Yeah, well, I'm interested. Are you living in Scotland right now, and that's where you're born, and that's where you spend all your time?
Yeah, I live in Scotland. Yeah, I have lived elsewhere. I lived in New York for 3 years, and went to drama school there, and then I've been back for just over 9 years now, back in Glasgow. Yeah.
Okay, so Glasgow is, you'll have to forgive my geography here. So
okay.
Glasgow is that's a city or an area of Scotland, or a city?
It's a city. Yeah, it's a city in Scotland.
And Scotland is obviously, it's a country, but where does it fall into the Brexit issue?
It's part of the UK, so we are leaving. We are part of the whole Brexit thing.
How do you feel about that?
It's not what I wanted, so no, I'm not happy about it. So we'll see how that pans out. We'll see how that develops over time. But I think we're at a real time of change at the moment, and I'm not sure all of it is positive. But we'll take what positives we can from it where we can. I think that's all we can do.
Okay, well, that's very good. Again, another very good political answer. I like it.
Diplomatic.
Thank you. I knew there was another word. I was like, what is the other word? Diplomatic. Yes. Political could be, well, we've seen how politics can talk here in the States, so that's not the best. Yeah, so diplomatic. Trump is not diplomatic.
No.
He's political. You're being diplomatic. Okay. So did you get the acting bug? Like, what age were you when you're like, I want to act?
Oh, I think that happened as soon as I arrived from birth. Probably, I could talk before I could walk. I was just so conversational, really young, and anything that was remotely entertaining that's what I was interested in. So I was just a natural performer, really. And then because I ended up spending quite a lot of time with my grandparents, and my granddad was quite the film buff and he loved film, that's when I really started to go, oh, people do this. This is a thing. And to be part of storytelling in that way. And it just became something that, to me now, I think it's just a natural gravitation towards it over time.
What was the first kind of major role or play that you did, like at school or something, where you like felt like maybe the one that made you the most nervous, or the one that was like, oh wow, I'm actually on stage?
I joined Scottish Youth Theatre, which is a big youth theatre organisation here in Scotland, and I got to be a part of a Christmas production that they were doing in a theatre here called the Tron Theatre, and to be on that particular stage was hugely exciting for me. And I thought, yeah, I'm definitely going to carry this forward and study and try to aim to be back on this stage in a professional capacity. And it's weird because in the last year I've spent quite a lot of time back at the Tron Theatre. It's almost become a little bit of a home away from home just in the last year, so it's starting to feel like things are coming full circle a little bit, which is nice.
Okay, just one pause here. I just got the YouTube version of their chat up, so I can see some of the chat. Ruben, who couldn't be here, has some questions for you, so I want to make sure I ask that.
Sure.
Okay, so he said, he said here, Irish in New York is like red hair in Ireland.
What's that?
I think he's trying to make. I think he was commenting on your accents at the beginning.
So what's he saying?
He's trying to be. Let's see if I can decipher my brother's humor here. Okay, stand by. He said Irish in New York is like red hair in Ireland. So I think he's saying they maybe go hand in hand.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of Irish in New York, I think.
Sure, there is, yeah.
Okay, then he also asked who introduced you to Rocky, so we talked about that. Mm-hmm. And then Ruben mentioned the hats in the background.
Yes, I'm a lover of hats. Yes, so I have many. I don't have an accurate Rocky hat yet. I've tried a number of times to find both hats, the black one that he wears and the grey one in Rocky IV. I have bought about 3 different hats from grey hats, bonnet ones, that, you know, trying to get the right one from Rocky IV, and they're still not quite right, in my opinion. So I will get there eventually.
That's awesome. So he did chime in, so I want to make sure we got that. Okay, so then you went into actual, like, what was your first like film, something on film? Because that must have been pretty exciting.
The very first film I did was I did a little short film, but my first proper professional job was a television show. It was a really big Scottish television show at the time. It was called Taggart, and it was a detective series. And if you're from Scotland and you get a part in Taggart, it's a huge deal. It's massive because it was just so popular for so long. And they did 101 episodes, and I got to be in episode 99 as a red herring, as a potential suspect. And so I just got in there before they decided to discontinue the series after decades of it running. Oh. So it was a real privilege, and for that to be my first proper professional job was so joyous. You know, I made it into Taggart, I did it, you know. So.
Okay, and then did you do any commercials? Like, have you done any just products or anything?
I've done a couple of commercials, yeah, but not for. It's for interesting things. You know, I did one for. I don't know if you guys play a lot of bingo, but I did a commercial for a particular bingo organization, and then I did one for a recruitment company as well. Both very comedic. They try to make a lot of. I don't get the seductive commercials. I get the comedic ones. I have done quite a bit of comedy as well, so yeah, I tend to get more comedic type commercials than the glossy ones.
Well, I can see that you have a good sense of humor, so they probably sense that too.
Yeah.
Now, because you were actually in the comedy show, I might be pronouncing this wrong. Burnistown?
Close enough. Burniston.
All right, Burniston. So I was pronouncing town literally.
Burniston, yeah.
Burniston.
Yeah.
I saw a clip of you on YouTube because I wanted to hear what you sounded like before I talked to you, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's Scottish. But you're talking because on the TV shows, it was like the accent was like everyone's like talking very thick accents. I'm like, oh boy, hopefully she can understand me. But you're talking very clearly, so it's just I was worried for nothing.
I'm doing my best polite Scottish, to be honest. They probably kicked me out of Scotland for being so polite with this, but I figure it's better for you to understand me. So
I was gonna say the natural. I would assume what I was watching on TV or on YouTube was a natural, just you talking. It's like, oh boy, that is Scottish.
Yeah, it is. But I recognize that for some places that can often require subtitles and things. And I thought, oh no, we're doing a live podcast. I better just mind my P's and Q's a little bit, and enunciate.
And that's
So,
it. Well, it's very good. Now, the scene that I saw in this clip, and I believe it was from Burniston, was you pulling a ring out of somebody's derriere.
yes, the best marriage proposal ever. I do hope that's how I get proposed to one day, maybe. No, it's interesting. Yeah, it was good fun. It was good fun.
So, what was the storyline there? Why did he have an engagement ring in his caboose?
So basically, it's that my boyfriend works at the airport that the guy has departed from. And and he knows, so he's called me up and said, you need to search this guy. He's suspicious. So the guy's already frustrated because he's been searched already. What's this all about? And of course, then it's all revealed that it's part of a ruse to propose to me. And I get hugely excited by it. So the poor guy's just a scapegoat, to be fair. He's being used and abused just so that I can get proposed to and think it's the most romantic proposal ever.
Yeah, so that was a proposal to you. Okay, because the clip I saw on YouTube was a kind of a reel of all your different.
So it didn't. Yeah, it's edited down a little bit. It's not the full sketch. So, because in the full sketch,
Okay.
it kind of, yeah. So that's fair. Because I was kind of wondering there, but yeah, that's fair because you're not getting the beginning of it.
No, well, and I don't think I get any of your shows here in Canada, which is too bad because it looks like there's some really fun stuff that you've been in, but a lot of it's the BBC, I guess, stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Burniston's on Netflix now, which is nice.
Okay.
So it's on Netflix.
I don't think it is here.
Okay.
Not in Canada. Every country has their own license seeing what they show. So even the US has different shows than Canada, and Canada has different shows in the US. But everyone has the Netflix shows, but they don't necessarily have all the shows for their country or region.
Yeah, a lot of it was on YouTube. Oh, sorry. Ahead. Yeah, no, a lot of it was on YouTube for a while, and then I don't know how much of it is still on YouTube, to be fair, but for a while there was quite a lot of it on there. But I don't know now if it's because I know some of it got taken down, and then I don't know if it got put back up. So.
Okay, and then you had a recurring role in this soap opera called River City.
Yes, it's a Scottish serial drama, I think they like to call it. So it's
my apologies, not a soap opera.
No, it's just how they like to call it because it's only it's an hour long once a week. It used to be two half-hour episodes, and then they sort of changed everything, and it's now just a 1 hour every week. So again, that was quite a fortunate thing because I was only meant to do one episode, and then they wrote a whole storyline that I could be involved in. So that's again another one. If you're in Scotland and you're an actor in Scotland, to get it in there is a good one to do. So I've kind of worked my way through.
It's like it's an ongoing series that people kind of roll in and out of type thing.
Yeah, so it's quite a nice thing with actors in Scotland. It's quite a lovely little community feel to it, and so whenever you kind of have a look at it, it's nice to see, your peers or your different people that familiar faces. Oh, they've got their part in River City. That's fantastic, and so it's one of those recognizable TV shows that's again sort of a privilege as a Scottish actor to get to do. The way that certain theatres might be as well. If you're performing certain shows in certain theatres, it's always nice to see that community feel with different actors you've gotten to know.
That's awesome. All right, so the next thing, not the last thing, but I want to talk about on IMDb. It says you're writing is it a play or is it a documentary or is it a bit of both?
It's both. Basically, I've written a play, but I want to not only put that play up and get it into production, but I want to document everything. It's inspired very loosely by actual events, although the whole thing is fiction, but it's taking factual circumstances and then placing it in a fictional setting, which is why I want to document the production progress into the show getting put on, and also to look at the stories upon which it's based as well, because it's an issue-based piece. So it's to sort of give more focus to that particular issue. And it has, and of course I couldn't go into writing my very first ever piece of theatre without incorporating Rocky somehow. So the central character is basically going through, and has been going through, a huge challenge. She's very physically unwell. And because of her isolation and her experience with that, she gravitates towards the Rocky films as a source of support and inspiration. Not unlike me, but just in a much more magnified way. She's gotten to the point now where she thinks that the answer to all life's questions can be found in a Rocky film. And she finds herself having to communicate through those films what her experience is. So every part of her experience, she can link that to particular moments within Rocky. This is like this moment, or this is like that moment, or this is what's happening. And because it's what she's going through is very physical, it's just a way of being able to get the audience to have an affinity with that and understand what it is that she is feeling. Because I think even if you haven't experienced the Rocky films, though, I've been very careful to write it in a way that even if you haven't seen the Rocky films, you still have a grasp of what it is that she's going through. But if you have seen the Rocky films, then it enhances your experience of the play. So,
oh wow, that's exciting. I actually didn't know it was about the Rocky films. I know the title, I think, is called One More Round.
Yeah. Because she very much is at that point. Because the whole thing for me is in Rocky 4, when Rocky says to his son, go on that one more round when you don't think you can. That's what makes all the difference in your life. And that's that conversation you have to have with yourself over and over again, because can you do it? You have to. This is what makes the difference. So, which links in also with going the distance. So for her, she really feels like she's reaching that final round and she has to keep going. And but it's an interesting thing because she's physically unwell. What she's decided is she's decided to call her illness Ivan Drago, because Ivan Drago was Rocky's toughest opponent, and this illness is her toughest opponent. So a lot of what she links back to is that particular fight. And especially with the whole relationship with Rocky and Duke at that point, and the fact that the whole no pain thing, with no pain, and then in real tough moments when he's like, all your fire, all your power, everything you got, this is your whole life here, and it's that. And she has to dig deep, and she has to use that because she's in a very difficult circumstance. And that's all she has to kind of keep her going, because that's all she's been very isolated and cut off, and it's got to a point that all she's really got now is her relationship to these films. So
what are you able to say what she has, what it is she's struggling with?
Yeah, she has myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is also known as ME, or has also been known as chronic fatigue syndrome. And in my experience, those names don't really cover the severity of what that condition is. So I became ill with ME when I was 9 after a bout of glandular fever, and I just didn't recover. But I wasn't diagnosed until I was 17, which is why I spent so much time with my grandparents, because I wasn't able to be in school, which totally changed my education and my life experience. And so that part of it is very much akin to myself in that we didn't have a diagnosis, but I knew something was physically wrong. And in seeing those films, it kind of made me go, right, yeah. And that's when I named my own illness Ivan Drago. And I, even after diagnosis, I've kind of stuck with that, because Ivan Drago to me is much more brutal than a description, from a descriptive point of view, than any other name that's been given to it, because it has a multitude of names: post-viral fatigue syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, myalgic encephalomyelitis. So what happens in certain cases as well, when people are really severely affected, is there's a lot of mistreatment that goes on, and people still look at it from a very psychological perspective. And some people have been very, very severely ill, but then they've been forcibly removed from their family home and sectioned in a psychiatric hospital. And that causes very damaging, severe mistreatment. And I was very lucky not to be taken, not to go so far into that level of treatment, because we got so far. And if you can avoid the system then and not seek out help, then you kind of get left to, you know. But if you're more severely affected and you're in a position where outside influences come in and make decisions about your care, it gets to a point where the choice is no longer yours, and it's kind of taken out of your hands. And so by hearing stories of people having gone through that experience, I started to think about, okay, what if I had been much more severe? What if they had I was put in that position, and where my mindset go, and how does my analogy with the Rocky films fit with this circumstance, and is it useful for people to gain a clearer perspective of what this is, and how damaging the mistreatment can be? Because much as there is a risk of death in boxing, there to Rocky, especially in Rocky 4, it's talked about massively. There is a risk of death, and people have died, and so it is that severe. But you don't want your, also being an actor with things having to be theatrically engaging, it's a weird balance that you have to create between what do you want to say with this piece, how theatrically engaging is it, and can you merge the two and make that work? So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with the piece, and why I want there to be a documentary as well, is because the play will say a lot, but then there will be a lot of questions raised by it, I think, you know, and so that's why I feel like, well, if I make a documentary as well and hopefully answer those questions through that film, then we're making some headway.
That's awesome. Wow. That's ambitious, really. Good for you. So basically it's a play, not a movie. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a play, and then the film will be a documentary of that, the development process, the rehearsal process, into going into production, interviews with people who have had experiences that the play is based on, making sure that the play is accurate, because the last thing I want to do is a disservice to people who are going through living with very severe ME. I don't want to misrepresent. So there will, you know, I want to document my research as well, to make sure that the play is accurate in its depiction of the condition.
That's awesome. What was I going to say? See, this is where editing comes in, where I collect my thoughts here. See, we've been doing really well here. There's going to be very little editing. Yeah, drink some water, take a break, take a second. My mother-in-law actually has ME, so that's really cool that you're doing that. Yeah. So
and how is she doing with it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, that's the thing, is I don't really talk to her about it necessarily. I just know my wife tells me that she has chronic fatigue, and I just know that when I see her, you know, you can see that it's that outside of, you know, the fatigue, like literally just the fatigue and low energy and things like that. But she has been diagnosed with it. But she's lived a normally functioning, busy life, you know what I mean? But I guess I'm so naive about it. I'm almost afraid to even say anything about her. Yeah. I don't want to misrepresent her either, you know what I mean? But from an outside observer, she does very well. But by the end of the day, where somebody like me would still have a lot of energy, she's wiped.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a part of it or not. Or
Yeah. I mean, a big part of it is what they call post-exertional malaise, which I don't like the term malaise. I think, again, it's too light. I call it post-exertional kickback, because I think basically any activity that you do, it costs you so much more physically. So for a lot of people, having a shower would be the equivalent of running a marathon. Or how I would, if I would put it in Rocky terms, it's like, Rocky comes out of the ring and he's very active and he's giving it everything he's got, but then Drago is punching back. So when you take respite, it's like going back to your corner, because you have to allow that. It's a longer time. You have longer corner breaks, but it's very much that push-pull thing, which again is why I think the analogy works really well, because I mean, the only difference is that it's not 15 rounds or whatever. It's an ongoing, never-ending Drago fight. There is no final bell, unfortunately. That's the only difference. But yeah, so.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I really want to see this when it's done. So I'm sure you'll advertise when it's done, because I follow you on Twitter. And I do have a couple kind of fun questions, if you don't mind if I ask you.
Sure.
Not those weren't fun, but this is. I'm kind of curious on how things work. So for your IMDb picture, you're drinking coffee or tea, or what are you doing there?
It's very.
You're looking out into the great beyond.
Yeah. No, I was doing a photography session, a photo shoot, because I was getting new headshots, and we decided to do some portrait shots as well. And that was one of the ones that came out. And I thought, actually, that's a nice way to that says that's who I am a little bit. Yeah, I drink coffee. I'm thoughtful. I'm, so we just liked it as a picture, and it was a choice picture of all the portrait shots we did that day, because most of the other ones made me look like. Sorry.
No, I want to hear what the pictures made you look like. Go
ahead.
No,
I said most of the other pictures made me look like I was the lead in a detective movie, which I'm not opposed to. I would love to be the lead in a detective movie, but I didn't think that was the best one to put out front. So.
Well, it looks very good. It looks very or you look like I'm just exhausted. I'm gonna go to bed for the night. So that's what the coffee's for. And now you've just completed a movie or show called IQU.
No, that was ages ago. It's just taking a while in development. The most recent one I've been working on is a zombie musical called Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Which is still shooting now. And yeah, that's really exciting. That's because I get to be a zombie at some point, which was a lot of fun to do.
Nice. Yeah, here's the synopsis for our listeners. A girl and her friends must fight and sing their way through a zombie invasion to reach the supposed safety of their school, not knowing if their parents and friends will still be alive when they get there. Well, zombies are the thing right now.
Yeah, but I don't think there's ever been a zombie musical. So it's really, there was a short film version of it a number of years ago, which was fantastic. So it's nice that it's now moved to be a feature.
That's awesome. No, the only zombie musical I can think of was Michael Jackson's Thriller. And then you just finished, or it's called End Violet.
Yes, that was a feature film. I actually shot that just over a year ago, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen with that. It's been submitted to festivals, but that was all shot in Edinburgh, so it shows Edinburgh off really, really well. Scotland's capital city.
Is that you on the front cover of the picture?
No, that's the girl who plays my daughter. That's her name is Hannah Mackenzie, and she plays my daughter.
Wow, they sure
She
Got
plays
someone to look like
Violet.
you.
Yeah, she plays Violet. Yes, but she's younger and more beautiful, and she's also massively talented. She's really, really talented. So I can't wait to see what she gets up to in the future, because I think she's going to be one of those that's going to explode and be hugely successful. And she was great to work
Well,
with.
that's really cool. I really envy you guys for being in, just to be in the arts, and I don't think I could ever act. I don't know if I don't have that. It's just not my DNA. Like I've always wondered, like, if they just threw me into a movie, how I would do it. I'd probably be terrible. This is much more. This is much more my thing. Just be able to talk to people. I think. Then I would love to have a talk show. In fact, that would be my dream job, to be have a talk show. That'd be so cool. And I don't have any writers. I have to come up with my stuff on my own here, and I have terrible equipment, as you can see. So thanks for being very patient at the beginning of all this. I was like, you sent me that Twitter message. You're like, "Are we still on?" I'm like, "Oh no, she's gonna leave."
I got really worried, because then I had to download a plugin and it was just not. And then I'm like, "What's happening?" It's my fault, because I've never used Google Hangout before, but now I know how it works.
It's just like Skype. It's long story short. It's Skype doesn't have any. Skype is the best peer-to-peer chat. Like, it really is.
Yeah,
but it doesn't have any. Yeah, it doesn't have any built-in recording though. Like, it doesn't have like an option to record. So long story short, you have to get third-party stuff, and I've tried to use third-party stuff, and then it crashes Skype, and Skype doesn't support this. They make it tricky for you to record unless you have expensive soundboard stuff, which. Yeah, I admit, I got a few kids. I don't have the money just to drop money on the nice expensive soundboard stuff. And so, but Google, because you can put on YouTube, you can stream all audio from YouTube very easily. So it's just the easiest way for us to get the audio from these things. Anyways, a little technical insider for you. One last question for you. If you were to meet, have you met Sylvester Stallone?
No, I really hope I do one day. Yeah, but I'd love to. I'd love to meet Burt Young as well, though. I would love to meet both Burt Young and Sylvester Stallone, because I didn't touch on how brilliant an actor I think Burt Young is, and particularly in that role of Paulie. I think he can do so much without even saying anything. I think he's spectacular. So and I think he's a great storyteller as well. I've seen some interviews with him, and he tells some really good stories. So I'd love to get a chat with him. But Sylvester Stallone, I follow everywhere. I follow him on Instagram. I follow him on Twitter. I think he's awesome. I think he's just such a positive guy, and then particularly with the Rocky films, I think he's created a phenomenon that will grow and last. And so yes.
Yeah, Burt Young, I agree with you 100% with Burt Young. We're trying. Without being like stalkers, we've pestered his camp for an interview. But we'll keep trying. Hopefully, if we get enough product out there, he'll realize we're not completely nuts. We're pretty decent. Yeah. We just like Rocky says in Rocky 1, we won't take any cheap shots at him. You know what I mean? And then, of course, Stallone, people have asked me, do you want to interview Stallone? I'm like, well,
it's a Rocky podcast. I should hope so.
But it's like I don't even pretend that it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even pretend. It's just like I've always said, I would love it if he would just call my phone, and I would tell him, look, I won't even pick up. You don't even have, like, I won't even bug you. If you just call, leave a message on my cell phone to say, hey, yo, listen to the Rocky podcast. This is you know. Like, I would play that at the beginning of every episode, you know. But anyways, but if you were to ever meet Stallone, what would be the one question you want to ask him?
I only get one question. Come on, one question. What would I ask him? I'd probably ask him if he. What would I ask? There's a couple of things, you see, because I would want to know.
Fine. I'll give you. I'll give you some. I'll give you some leeway.
I'd want to know about if there was any particular role that he would love to do. And also how, I mean, I think he would probably say that Rocky himself has influenced him to be a better man, because he has said in previous interviews that he thinks Rocky's, you know, this great guy that in some ways when he was that age couldn't necessarily be. But I think the thing with him is as well is that he keeps working, and he keeps, you know, creating different projects, and continues to keep working. And maybe the best question to ask him actually is, does Rocky continue to inspire him on a daily basis? Does he ever, when he's in trouble or he's having a hard time, does he go to the Rocky movies for reference, for the purposes of motivation? That's probably the best question.
That's very good. I like it. That's like, does his own creation inspire him? Bravo.
Yeah.
Bravo.
I got there in the end, didn't I? That took me a while. I got there in the end.
It's on the spot question. For me to ask you what you would ask him, but Kirsty, you've been absolutely lovely, amazing, and I just want to. Oh, I have one more question. How do you get the blue check mark next to your Twitter name?
You have to follow verified tweets, and then they had a thing for a while where you could you follow them, and then you get submitted or something. I'm not quite clued up on it, but if you follow verified tweets, I think there's instructions on how it works. Because for a while they weren't verifying anyone, but then they started to verify people after following them for ages. So if you follow them, there is guidance or instructions on how to get verified from that, I think. I hope that's how it works. I think that's how it works.
That's funny, because you're our first blue check mark interview. So there you go.
Oh wow, there you go. I'm not sure how big a deal the blue tick is now. You know, when I saw that I got it, I went, really? Okay. Not that I want them to take it away. You know, I'm quite happy that it's there, but
I think the idea is that people create fake accounts. It's a way to,
yeah,
especially for, there's a lot of fake accounts out there. So
yeah, a lot of impersonators.
Well, you look like your profile picture, so it's good. You're fine.
I am me. Yes, I am myself.
So what's next on your plate after this play?
After this play, well, the play is going to take a while. I'm also going to be directing my first short film. I've written a short film. We're going to hopefully go into production with that at the end of March. I want to start development workshops on the play, because I want to bring prospective cast members of the play together and do some development workshops, because the play still needs a little bit of rewriting. So those two projects are the things that I'm next giving focus to, but they're both mine, so that's interesting to be doing that, to be taking that on.
All right, well, that comes to the end of our interview. Was there anything you wanted to say, or
thank you? Just, it's been great to chat to you, and thank you so much for picking my Rocky brain. It's been a pleasure. I think I need to go and watch the films again.
Yes, thanks and tell all your friends, any Rocky fans that you have, tell them there's a podcast that talks about Rocky. Yeah, do you want to take us out with the ding ding?
Okay. Ding.
Just go ding ding.
Ding ding. Remember when